Hello, everyone. My name is David, aka Cali DTO from the other podcast, and we got Axel here.
What
Um,
is up?
yeah, what is up? Like every week, we are going to review horror films, how great they are, how terrible they are, how why are they important? What kind of movements they've set off, such and such. So this week we are doing My Bloody Valentine, 1981. Um,
Indeed.
yeah, there's a lot to talk about on this film, good and bad.
Yeah.
Um,
By the way, My Bloody Valentine, name of a horror movie, also the name of the worst person you knew in college's favorite band. So,
okay. Oh, and another fun fact: this is actually one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite slasher films.
that makes sense. I didn't know that when I was watching it, but it definitely seemed like something he would enjoy.
Yeah, and also the original title of the film was supposed to be called The Secret, but the production company changed it because there was a string of films coming out with holiday names. Black Christmas, Friday the 13th, such and such. So they changed it to ride the wave of all these other films.
It was supposed to be called The Secret.
Yep,
That the studio made the right choice.
exactly right. I was like, huh, okay.
Just,
Um,
just the most generic title you could think
yeah.
of.
Thank goodness for that, right? So
Yeah.
it is starring Paul Kellman, Laurie Hellier, and Neil Affleck. The only one that really came successful out of this movie was Laurie Hellier. She's done several films, including like TV shows as well, like Star Trek Voyager, and she was even on the show called Flashpoint with the Pink Power
Oh,
Ranger. Um, I forgot her name. Sorry.
Pink Power Lane. Well, I know her name was Kimberly in the show.
On the show,
I mean,
yes.
she was my first true love as a 6-year-old.
Oh yes, I was so in love with her at the time. uh, so just some little facts about that, and the director, George Mihalka. Sorry, butchered that. Um,
George
he
Mihalka.
Mihalka, yeah. He actually directed a series that I loved as a child, but I don't remember much of it at all now. It's called The Hitchhiker, and it was a
Hmm.
short series. I remember my brother like being totally in love with it, and then I watched it with him. So I was like blown away. I was like, "That's who did that. Cool." Um,
Oh wow.
yeah. So go and take point on the plot.
Oh yeah, for sure. So before I get in, I think My Bloody Valentine. When we're talking about it, we have to talk about the fact that it is a really weird movie because it wants to be two different types of movie.
Yeah.
And I think it in very many parts succeeds in blending these two styles. Um, because on the one hand, it wants to be this very exploitative, cheap, sexy horror movie.
Yep.
It also wants to be an extremely political horror movie with commentary on neoliberalism and anti-union activism that was rising in the West at the time.
Oh.
So you end up with a movie that feels very at odds with itself. And I think as we're running through it, that's something that's going to come up again and again, both in terms of its political theming and even smaller things in terms of who the characters are and are supposed to be.
Okay.
This is my third time watching the movie this time, and I had always noticed how this was going. I mean, at least as of the second time I watched the movie, I noticed what was going on. But I think this was the first time watching the movie that I was really like, it really set off an antenna for me, I guess.
Right on.
And so we start off with that uh, in an extremely 80s shot, which is two people go into a mine shaft. They want to make sweet love, which mine shaft is the best place for. You want that dirt. You want those jagged surfaces.
Hmm.
It's what you need. Spooky synth music is playing in the background to set the mood. Uh, and then just as he takes her shirt off, he kills her, the man, with a pickaxe. We don't know who he is because he's got a miner mask on.
Exactly.
Um, it's a very cheap feeling shot, but it
Yeah.
it works for the movie that you think you're getting.
Um, Yeah, it was honestly like throughout the entire film, the most of the death shots were like I don't know, flat. I guess I could.
Really, I
I
like some of these
felt
kills. Well, you know what? Actually, I think I see what you're saying because this movie, it's not so much a movie with good kills; it's a good movie with good scenes of characters finding a body
yes, yes,
after we see the kill.
I agree with that, 100.
Yeah,
percent
like you get like there are some amazing scenes of like a body being found, but not a lot of great scenes of a
of the actual act itself.
yeah.
Oh, another fun fact too. So while they were filming, or while the director found the the mines to direct him, he leased them, right, in Nova Scotia. So when so the town
Mhm. So
that
these
it
were
was,
real Canadian mines.
yes. So the town freaked out and they were like, "Sweet, like this, there's a big production coming in town. Let's clean the mines." so they spent I think it said 50 grand to like completely like clean out the mine shafts and everything to make it look good for production to come in and do their thing. So but then when production came in, they were disappointed. They were like, "This doesn't look like scary at all. It looks clean and like we can eat our sandwich on the ground basically."
How do you
So they,
clean a mine?
I don't know.
So we're gonna have to.
I didn't go into details, but they had to spend an extra 75 grand to make it look terrible. So
It just seems like that's crazy. It
yeah,
just seems like I mean, if somebody just sitting there, they're sweeping, just like no matter what I do, there's always more dirt and rocks here.
yeah. I don't know how it was done. I didn't go like I said, I didn't deep dive into the details of how you do that, but it happened. and disappointing.
And if you've ever cleaned a mine, let us know how you do it because
Yeah,
I'd like to know.
it's got to be terrible. I know that.
It has to be. I mean, it can't be great. So anyway, after we get this murder in the mine shaft, we get a group of workers. They're leaving their mines. All men, no women are allowed in the mine, which is something we get reiterated to us throughout the movie. And they're all talking about the safety conditions at the mine, which are not great. And it's they come off as very cavalier to it. Kind of dismissive of a lot of this idea of there being a significant danger at the mine. But I think it also comes off as them just having adapted to that situation. I mean, a lot of these conditions in the real world definitely get tied up in masculinity, and I think it's definitely the case here as well.
For sure. Well, they mentioned the methane gas though.
They do mention the methane gas. There is an unsafe level of methane gas in the mine, and there has been for a long time, as we're later going to find out.
Yeah. And another weird thing too is like they mentioned what was it? Not prospects, but there was more people with him, but they left him like in the lower levels. Did you catch that?
I didn't catch that. No.
Yeah. So like there was more. There was like new workers like tagging along. Like they were showing them what to do, but then like as a joke, they all went up without him. So like they left like a couple of people behind, and they were joking about it. They're like, "Oh well, they got to learn somehow, right?"
Yeah, you know what? I do remember that actually.
Like, that's weird too.
Yeah, you can. You're not supposed to do that, I don't think, at
No, they can die.
most mines. But anyway, they don't have time to focus on this absolute nonsense of mine safety because there is a Valentine's Day dance coming up, folks. And these are characters in their late 20s and early 30s. Nothing gets us more riled up at this age
There's some sweet shaking.
than a town-wide middle school dance for adults.
Twist and shout. Here we come.
Yeah. And we also get introduced to our main character, our main protagonist of TJ Hanniger, Sarah Mercer, and another plot driving character who we come to think is the protagonist, Axel Palmer, played by Neil Affleck.
Yeah. One more thing. I was confused at the opening scene of the killer, killing the lady. Like that didn't make sense to me, really. I mean,
yeah, it doesn't make sense when that actually happened. They never find her body.
yeah.
They don't even notice anyone's missing.
They just go straight to present. I'm like,
Yeah,
or
you expect it to come up later.
yeah, I was like, okay, like, I mean, I guess it's to like kind of set the tone of the film, but it just didn't make sense at all as far as plot wise go, you know.
Yeah, it didn't really lead into anything. I mean, it's a really cool scene. I like the
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
It's
I felt like it
probably
should
the
have been
best
later.
kill shot in the movie.
Yeah, I probably agree to that too.
Yeah. But then later, like, there's no point in the movie where they're like, oh, yeah, this woman's been missing, or like, oh, there's a dead woman in these mines. We have to, sweet, I get the day off of work, or anything like that.
She's from the main town or something, and not from Valentine Bluff.
I guess, yeah. Yes, that's, by the way, that's probably why Valentine's Day is such a big deal here, is because it's called Valentine Bluff, the town in Nova Scotia where this takes place. And we find out that TJ's ex, who is Sarah, is dating Axel. TJ has left Valentine Bluff for a few years to go do something. They never said. Maybe he went to the city, maybe he didn't, but he's come back and he is not happy about it. So we meet our three lead characters of this movie. One of whom is TJ Hanniger, who is the son of the mayor of the town. We find out that he's left Valentine Bluff's the name of this town, for some untold amount of time. We don't know why he left. We don't know what he was doing. We just know he was gone for a few years. We meet his ex-girlfriend, Sarah, and Sarah is dating Axel, who is, from what we know at the beginning, one of the mine workers. And we find out that they don't have time to worry about this methane stuff. And, you can't focus on that, because guess what? There's a Valentine's Day dance coming up. First one in 20 years.
I wonder why.
Yeah, you needed a break. They got Valentine's Day danced out.
Too much methane.
And there is nothing that 30-year-old mine workers get more excited about than a Valentine's Day dance.
Yeah, I mean, especially with a population of 3,000 people, of course you're going to be excited, right?
There's a population of 3,000 people. So, I mean, look, if any woman you meet at that dance, if you're one, you might be the only person there who's not a blood relative of hers.
Yep.
So, I mean, you are good to go.
It's either the dance or the bar. You pick one.
And we find out that, I think I said this, that Sarah, who's his ex, is currently dating Axel, who's there. So we meet Mayor Hanniger, mayor of Valentine Bluffs. We also meet Chief Jake Newby, who is the chief of police. You may not have seen this movie, but he is the most movie cop appearance and voice.
Yes, I didn't really look at, I didn't notice that till now. I'm like, you know what? You're right.
He is the platonic ideal of a Canadian movie cop.
Well, I mean, he filled out the role pretty well, though. So,
oh no, he was great. He's the best part of the movie. He also smokes this giant, like, comedically large pipe throughout the movie that he'll occasionally take out of his mouth and be like, "Ah, dear God."
I'm overly stressed. Puff, puff, puff.
He's just sitting around with this gigantic, the biggest pipe we have ever seen.
Is it even tobacco?
And he is played by Don Newby, who also was Don Franks, sorry, who also, I don't know if you had this fact, David.
I did not.
Was also a Canadian country singer known as Iron Buffalo.
Wow.
Who was basically, so he passed away in 2016, and I didn't listen to his music for this. So I don't know, don't take this as me belittling his music career or anything like that. But the best way I can describe what it seems like from his public image is your mom saying, "We have Willie Nelson at home."
Weird.
Yeah, just this old Canadian country star. Canadian does have actually a pretty big country music tradition, so it makes sense that they would do it.
Yeah.
Who wrote a number of songs about how much he loves smoking weed, and also other songs about other stuff. So it wasn't just about that. So he probably did more singing than acting, but he was also the voice of Boba Fett in the Star Wars Holiday Special as well. Didn't want to take credit for that one for some reason.
Who does? But I mean, that's pretty cool, though. I mean, in hindsight.
Yeah, no, and I mean, he is a pleasure to watch on screen in this movie.
Yeah. Some of these characters, I was like, big thumbs up for.
Yeah. So anyway, they show up and they all show up at like this community center and start talking about the Valentine's Day dance and getting ready. And pretty much from the beginning, and this continues throughout, like I was talking about before with this movie seeming at odds with itself,
Yeah.
another way that it does is you end up really asking yourself, what age are these characters supposed to be? Because plot wise, they're supposed to be in their mid 20s to early 30s, right? Like these are adult mine workers. We know that one of them is at least 26, just based on flashbacks we later get. So, you know, on the one hand, you're like, okay, these are characters in their mid 20s to early 30s, depending on which one.
Yeah.
But then the mayor shows up and they're like, you crazy kids and stuff like that. like they're a bunch of 17-year-olds. So the characters are very much coded as teenagers.
But they're totally not. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these are 30-year-old mine workers.
Acting like high schoolers.
Yeah, acting like high schoolers and being treated by the people around them like high schoolers more so. Like what they're doing is like high schoolers acting up. Like there's no point in the movie where the police chief is like, hey, you are 30. If you break our Valentine's Day dance embargo and throw an illegal Valentine's Day party, you're going to go to prison. Like you're going to go to jail at least.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's like, you crazy kids, knock it off, you.
Well, like, you know, so I forgot the character's name, but you know, when he busts out the door and he's like got the fake blood all over his head and he scares Mabel.
Yeah, Howard Landers, I think.
Howard, okay. Yeah, I wrote it later on, but I forgot what it was. Anyway, so you know, like instantly you're like, okay, well, this guy is obviously the class clown, even though he's 20, probably same age as, let's say, Axel, you know, 26, right? So
yeah, I mean, at a certain point, you're not the class clown. You're just banned from Arby's.
And you can tell, like, he's like the life of the party at the bar later on. But you know, we'll speak on that in a bit.
Oh yeah. So we are not told yet why the Valentine's Day dance is canceled. Oh, you know what? Actually, the scene is referenced later on though, because then we get the mayor and the police chief driving home.
And before that though, I wanted to just real quick. It was a very strange scene, I thought, where all so after they left the mine shaft, everybody was running to their cars and everyone's like scrambling around and they're all like, you know, jokingly like driving off into town. I'm like, that was a weird scene to me. I felt very cartoonish, you know, like very just kind of unnecessary in a way, but I guess it just shows their maturity, right?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to show them as immature, but I mean, once again, I just think that whatever they if that's the intention, to just so these are all immature adults, it doesn't work when it is every single adult besides the police chief.
Yeah.
And as much as I love this movie, which we'll both give our read on this movie at the end, but like as much as I love this movie, that element it just seems very strange. It almost seems like they wanted to make a slasher movie about teenagers or college students. Yeah. And then at the last minute, they wanted to work in these political themes. They changed it, but they didn't change the dialogue.
Who knows with these films? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and we don't have the behind the scenes details to, you know, verify that. And, you know,
and that could have been like the director, like, well, like let's do this instead. You know, it could have been like changes in the middle of the script and stuff. And yeah, I don't know, but I just thought it was weird.
Yeah.
So you got the mayor and the sheriff driving off after
they're driving home.
The gift.
They get a box of chocolates. How nice! Typical Valentine's Day gift. They open it, and oh no, there's a heart in it. Probably the heart from the unnamed woman who was murdered in the mine shaft.
Mm,
And he gets a
correct.
note saying that there will be murders if the Valentine's Day dance proceeds. And they know what that means because they know why the Valentine's Day dance has stopped 20 years before. And that evening, we get Mabel, a sweet old woman who runs the like the community
Laundromat.
center, I guess. Yeah, and the laundromat. She runs the laundromat, but she seems to be doing a lot at the community center.
That's a small town, of course.
Yeah, yeah, it's a small town. So
Oh, also, did you notice the mayor like basically having a stroke as soon as he opened the box with the heart?
yes, he because he immediately. I mean, he knows. Like he's been. Yeah, he immediately knows what's going on.
I was like, he's dying. You need to take him to the hospital.
Yeah. You know what? Before Mabel, actually, we then get a shot at the bar. Now, the best way, if you're making a movie, and this is a filmmaking tip from me, Axel Greenberg, beloved podcast co-host. If you're making a horror movie and you want to explain why there's bad things happening, what I would do is just have an old man yell it directly into the camera.
Oh, that was great.
So what happened was 21 years ago, there was an incident in the mine where two men got caved in, and one of them had to kill and eat the other. So we get that. So we get that scene. So and that man's name was Harry Warden. Very upsetting. Wasn't good. It's because of the seems to be because of the unsafe methane levels from before. So that issue really hasn't been addressed. He spends a year in a mental hospital because of that ordeal. Comes back the next year and kills the two supervisors who skipped out on that day, who skipped out on watching the mine that day, and they skipped out for that Valentine's Day dance. So he murdered them. He brought the box of chocolates with the heart in it to the Valentine's Day dance, and with a written threat never to hold a Valentine's Day dance again because of what happened in the mines 20 years ago. Or what happened in the mines last year, rather.
Yeah.
So the town decides, Valentine's Day dances not that important. Although this also seems to be the most traumatizing event in the history of like this town, or like among the most, and it is a small town.
Yeah.
And I guess my question about that is, if that's the case, right? And this is the most traumatizing thing like ever to happen to the town, and the town is called Valentine Bluffs. You've had 20 years to change the name of the town.
Right?
Like, what if New York was called 9/11 Gardens, like before that? Like, they'd probably change it.
The thought process on the script, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just
it's
they didn't
very
care.
It's not that they didn't care, I don't think. It's a loud script. It's a loud, unsubtle, absurd script, but I don't think it's as much as my criticisms are going to sound like me saying the script is lazy. I don't think it is for what they set out to do.
Yeah, they probably just.
And we'll talk about our quality assessments at the end, because it seems like we have different assessments as to the quality of this film.
Yeah, I think it's pretty apparent.
So we get our first kill here. Starts from point of view of the killer, who we believe right now is Harry Warden, but maybe he's not. Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
So it's Mabel. She's in the laundromat. This is like we said before, this isn't a movie that has good kills so much as it has good scenes of bodies being found.
Yeah.
So he kills her at the laundromat. And what made this a pretty boring kill to me, especially for the first like post opening credits film kill. He doesn't use a laundry item. He's not like, oh, I'm going to choke you with clothes wire, or like, beat you to death with a roll of quarters or something. Like,
there's no pizzazz.
He just uses the pickaxe. Like, you could do that at home, man.
Well, and it took him an entire 1 minute to find a killer. Like, he was chasing her forever.
Then, I think it builds up tension when you see him going in, because it's from his point of view. When you see him going in and you see like before she knows he's there, and then when she knows he's there, It's like just freaking end it already, man.
Well, you could just tell they were just like filling in, film. They were just like, well, we need
It's
to
either
make this.
at least is a portion that should have been left on the cutting room floor.
I mean, he could have like swung a couple of times and missed, at least to make it look, because he wasn't. He was kind of like
Yeah,
waiting to swing, and then finally she fell backwards enough to where she, lost her footing. Or no, he grabs her after she like tries to escape. He grabs her and then finally, um, hits her with a pickaxe. But there was so many other times where like she fell over, and he was on literally on top of her, and he could have just went down with the spike.
yeah. If you're coming to this movie for some original Nightmare on Elm Street style like crazy kills, this is not the movie for that. This is the story of a severely mentally ill real man who kills, like real in the sense of like a person who could exist, not real in the sense of existing in like in historically. Like this is the story of a severely mentally ill man who clumsily kills people with a pickaxe, but doesn't get caught for a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So cops show up at the laundromat, and they find her body, and it is a cool reveal, I think, because he opens up the dryer and her body flings out of the dryer and it's all burnt up. We get this cool dusty puppet flopping out. Which is a good scene.
That's a nice touch, because like at least the kill wasn't satisfactory, but at least the outcome was like rewarding.
Although I will say, and I believe, did you watch this movie on Amazon streaming?
No, I watched it through Microsoft because I bought it on the
So I think either way, I don't know, and I've found mixed things when I've looked it up. The version of this movie that has seen the widest release, the kills were pretty aggressive, were censored to a degree. Yeah. So there is like an uncut version of the film, and maybe it's a more satisfying kill there. Just for the sake of of clarity, we both watched the edited, more mainstream release of the movie. So I guess these kills may not be true to the original vision, but the puppet, it's a good puppet. They clearly added the right dust effects and everything there. And we get that box of chocolates with the human heart in it. Seems like his MO. We never see him wrapping the little paper mache though on the chocolate box. Like I would love a scene where after he does it, he's just sitting there, just slowly wrapping paper mache, and he just can't get it to work because he's got those heavy miner gloves on. So we get it. So we get like an occasional tear. It's like, oh, damn it.
Yeah.
Just like
that would be pretty. Yeah.
This movie is an hour and a half. If we got more scenes of an increasingly frustrated Canadian miner trying to wrap a box of chocolates, I think we could have gone for a Snyder cut. 4 hours, just give it to me.
I would have watched it then.
Yeah, just just straight into my eyeballs, Daddy Canada.
To see an angry miner just losing his marbles because he can't get the paper mache to fit back on top of the box. That's just...
And who can? I don't know how they do it.
I don't even bother.
Yeah. I wouldn't try, you get the Valentine's box you get. What I do like about this body reveal scene too, though, in terms of the themes of the movie, is right away the police are like, no, we're not going to do anything about this yet. We want to avoid a panic.
Yeah.
They do cancel the Valentine's Day dance, but they're not like, holy shit, there's a bunch of murders. Harry Warden's back. We just get them finding this body, being like, okay, we're canceling the dance. We don't want to freak people out. And that does seem to be a pretty common response if it's something that, might hurt profits or general morale, for the authorities to be like, we don't want to cause a panic, even if it could save lives. We get a bit more of the romance plot between TJ, the love triangle between TJ, Axel, and Sarah. I wouldn't call it a romantic subplot so much as I would call it like extremely overt sexual harassment for 90 minutes. uh, because the way that TJ, you see the way that TJ decides to flirt with Sarah originally, and what you got to do, and how 1981 Canadian slasher films would say you woo a woman, is just force her into a car against her will. Just straight up take her to a secondary location.
You just gotta do it. That's the only way to do it, especially in the
That's
80s.
to be a Canadian minor in love.
You're mine.
Yeah, it's literally that. And then he goes to a beach with her, and he's like, "Oh, date me again, Sarah," and she's like, "No," and he's like, "Oh shucks," and then he drives away. He just drives away and leaves her there. So,
I would have too.
Yeah, you know. So anyway, with the Valentine's Day dance being canceled, they find out. We get another shot of the mayor and the police chief being like, "Now you crazy kids, don't get up to mischief. This dance is canceled." They decide to throw a party at the mine.
Genius.
Nobody is aware. The older people in this town are very aware of this having happened. Everybody younger acts like they're not. Throughout the movie. But once again, these characters are all in their mid to late 20s, at least, if not their 30s. And this was 20 years ago. So they were like actively forming memories when this happened.
Yeah.
But they act unaware of it. So they're like, okay, we're going to throw the party at the mine, like in the mine cafeteria. And the bartender is like, don't do that. And they're like, shut up, old man. And then they go do it. Most of his scenes of the bartender are just him yelling directly into the camera
in rhyme form.
Not even in rhyme form.
The first time he was.
He doesn't. Oh yeah, he does, but he doesn't rhyme. He talks like he is rhyming.
Yeah, well, there was a couple lines he rhymes in it, but yeah, he does. Yeah, he's just like, beware, children.
It's in iambic pentameter. I don't know if it's an iambic pentameter actually, but iambic pentameter actually, but like it is theatrical at the very least. So he decides to open them up for a spook to stop this mine party, which is the best thing you can do there, and the way you stop anybody in their late 20s from doing something. Now, look, I just entered my late 20s this year. Or in the past year, I just turned 26, so I'm officially in my late 20s. Okay. And the way you can stop me from doing anything is if you get me to like have to stop and be like, "Is that a ghost?" It's over, folks. That's it. So what he does is he decides to set up an elaborate like scarecrow that's going to pop out of the door when they open it and pretend to swing a pickaxe at them, but then like won't actually hit them. Pretty sure could actually kill somebody if they don't step away in time.
Oh yeah, and there's always that one person that's like, what's up, and then pickaxe to the forehead.
Yeah. So he's trying to set it up, and then he opens it like 4 times in a row to laugh at it, and then he walks away, and then he goes back to open it again. But this time it's actually the killer, and he pops out and just pickaxes him to death of the closet. So I guess he had to like chill there with the scarecrow for a bit, or at the very least stand like perfectly still while the scarecrow was being set up.
Well, no, so didn't like the final time he opened it before he got murdered, wasn't it because it wasn't there when he like opened it, but he laughed anyway, and then he closed it, and then he like walked away, and he's like, wait a second.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, and then so he walked back, and that's when the
I thought I saw it there, but maybe
no,
I didn't.
I think the killer like took it off, and then was out of frame, and then when the guy opened it, he was like laughing anyway because he was already used to the thing popping out, and then he realized it didn't. So when he walked away, he's like, "Wait a second, that was weird," and of course he's intoxicated, and I think he was. At least it seemed like it. I don't know.
Oh yeah, he's a Canadian bartender in a mining town. He wakes up hammered.
Yeah, and he's able to walk everywhere. I mean, it's a small town, so
Yeah, I
um,
mean, well, you're saying that as if he wouldn't drive everywhere. Like, even if he
that's true.
didn't,
Also,
like, it's 1981, a small town. He's an old guy. Like, I'm pretty sure these were in the days that you could just have a beer in your cup holder and it was like legal.
yeah, a six pack on the driver's side or on the passenger side, just sitting there, ready to go. Um, yeah. So yeah, he gets offed.
Yeah. Um, and then meanwhile, the police chief is contacting the mental hospital where Harry Warden was sent back after the Valentine's Day murders 20 years ago. They don't have a record of it. Guess these are pen and paper days.
Yep.
And then the party starts. And pretty quickly into the party, we get what I think is my favorite kill and my favorite body find in the movie, which is the character of Dave, who is an extremely minor character, but who gets the best kill. Goes into now. Before I say this, I do have a message for Canadian filmmakers. I don't know how many Valentine's Day parties you went to in your life. I haven't been to many. I'm Jewish. I don't celebrate Valentine's Day, but I haven't been to many. Even when I would go to communal stuff. What there's generally not at a Valentine's Day party, the food situation generally isn't. We're gonna walk into the kitchen and there's just a giant, constantly boiling pot of hot dogs, and you just kind of grab one and whenever you want it, and we're all just gonna go in and take it. They're boiling for an indefinite amount of time, so you can take them whenever you want.
Well, that's what I want my party. So
when you find
me.
that special someone at a Valentine's Day party and you go in for that first kiss, you want their breath to smell like cigarettes and Canadian Mine cafeteria hot dogs.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm.
So anyway, Dave goes in to get his hot dog, and then the killer pops up, drops his face into the boiling water. He gets killed by that. Later he's like dumped in the fridge. So we get a cool scene later on where someone goes up for 2 beers, grabs them, and he doesn't even notice he's just grabbing the beers, but he's just like laying down there in the fridge, which is a crazy scene. But what we also get later on is someone else going to get her hot dog, and she pulls out the human heart, which has been left in the hot dog water. We can tell it's the heart because it's in the shape of the heart, but it looks like it's clearly a bunch of chicken stuck together.
Yeah. I noticed that too. I was like, okay, that's
like
weird,
I feel like the heart would be red, but I don't know. I've never boiled a human heart.
Yeah,
not
I don't
in a
know
while.
either. But...
So maybe it would boil differently. I don't know how that works. So meanwhile, at this party, we get the hot dog water death. Best death in the movie by far. We get a double whammy on the body reveal, which like we've been saying, this movie doesn't excel on deaths. It absolutely excels on body reveals.
Yeah.
So we get that, and then meanwhile at the party we have TJ and Axel continually arguing over Sarah trying to win her affections and decide who she's right for. The romance has aged the least well in this movie because it's just 2 men harassing this woman who's not given any agency, who seems to want little to nothing to do with either of them.
She's bored. Small town.
She's bored in a small town, but also like these guys are both immature assholes.
Yeah.
Like if you're like 28 and it's just like these 2 guys acting like middle schoolers arguing over you all the time. Like, I don't know, it seems like something it's aged very poorly. And I think that this movie has been remade. I have not seen the remakes. but I think it would have very much benefited from Sarah being given a lot more agency than she got.
I did see the remake, I think when it first came out, but I don't remember seeing this one at before that one. So
Yeah.
I don't think I was that
And the
impressed with
remake
that
came
one.
out in 2006, so my inclination is probably not.
Yeah,
Like, because
it was in 3D also.
I'm sure it was great.
Yeah, put it that way.
Uh, yeah, so anyway, so that's aged not well. So once the Valentine's Day party starts is when this movie really picks up its pace, and
Yeah.
it's just kill shot, kill shot, kill shot, kill shot. Adult minors who are coded as 17 doing increasingly stupid stuff. Uh, so we get that. So we get that. We see Axel also getting more unhinged throughout it, which it does become interesting after you get to the end of the movie. At the time it comes off as kind of whiny, but then once you see the end and then you watch it a second time and you see him starting to get like more worked up and act more weird throughout the night.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
but that's how I felt with TJ though throughout the movie. Like I felt like his actions were kind of weird too a lot of times, and
yeah, no one acts like a person in this movie.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so we get to next kill. We have a couple having sex in the mines in the room that has showers and where
the suits are.
the suits are. Yeah, this is also a very cool kill.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot.
Because they do a lot with the environment with like throwing with like hooks and steam and all of that. Like
Yeah.
this scene clearly had the was the most expensive in the movie, I would imagine.
Oh, for sure.
Um, so the guy goes up to get the beers, which is when we get the scene of Dave's body in the refrigerator. Uh, so he starts just dropping uniform after uniform from hooks. Uh, and then he drops down the body of the bartender from one of the hooks. Meanwhile, there's steam everywhere. You can't really see what's going on. And then he just pushes her onto a hook and kills her that way. It
What a
really
what what a hooker.
it really feels like you're watching this descent into literal hell.
Yeah, yeah. I
Like,
definitely felt the minor. I keep calling him the minor. I don't know, but the killer way more aggressive. As the minutes go by on the film.
yeah. Um, and I think the body reveal here is also really cool because it's not really a body reveal. He just comes back down with the beers. He opens the shower. We don't see what he sees, but we just get this look of like abject horror on
Yeah.
this actor's face. And then he immediately runs upstairs and starts freaking out. Um, anyway, two more characters also get killed in the mines while having sex. Uh, well, no, they got killed in the mines while having sex. Sorry. And Hollis finds the body. Who Hollis we haven't talked about yet. My favorite character in the movie. This is the only one I was sad to see go. Just a big man. He looks 50, but he was like apparently like 28 when they filmed this. Uh, and he's just a big goofy guy. We see him in one scene like cooking a TV dinner on a car engine, so he does stuff like that.
Yeah.
When he sees the body, he just gets shot in the head by a nail gun.
Oh,
Um,
also amazing mustache too.
incredible mustache. Oh, by the
Yeah.
way, Hollis is in this situation because uh, between the changing room kill and them finding the body, all of the group decides to go down and do a little tour of the mines, even though no women are allowed in the mine. Nobody puts on their mining clothes; they just kind of get into a cart and go.
Yeah. Which is weird because like the throughout the entire film, okay, well not the entire film. At the beginning of the film, they're like so concerned about the methane levels and everything,
well,
and
now they're hammering.
yeah, but still, like you would think like one person would be like, maybe we should suit up. But
Yeah, but
apparently not.
nah, they don't. They're not going to do that.
Psych.
So anyway, between them going into the mines and these bodies being found, the cops do get called, and we have four left now. And they all try to climb to the top of the tower. The tower when we find our fifth kill, which is another minor character, found beheaded, completely dead.
That was Hollis, right?
No, Hollis gets killed by he just gets a nail gun shot to the head, and he kind of walks back for a bit before he's completely dies and just
I wrote the wrong
collapses.
name down. Okay, yeah, but well, the joke character is the one that gets his beheaded, right? They don't show it though, do they? He just kind of
Um,
runs off because he's like
yeah, he freaks out and runs off. Howard, the guy from before who
Howard.
fakes
That
his,
there
yeah,
you
he
go.
does
Okay,
that. And then later they find his head after he runs off.
and
Uh,
then his body. That's his body though, right? That falls down the ladder.
yes.
Yeah,
So the people who remain are TJ, Sarah, Axel, and Patty, who's Hollis's
girlfriend.
girlfriend. Um, Disparate attraction levels, but unlike TJ and Axel, he doesn't sexually harass her and like treat her like an idiot all the time or force her into a car. So that's probably why it works out.
Yeah, they're
Um,
actually a couple. Yeah.
yeah. So they're finding their way out. It looks like Axel drowns in mine water. And Patty gets killed. Patty's been freaking out this whole time. She's just not ready for it.
Mm.
And then they're trying to escape on this mine cart. We have the cops on the other end. He's chasing TJ and Sarah, and we get a fight scene between TJ and the miner. For the mask comes off, and we find out that Axel was the killer the entire time.
Dun dun dun.
Which is we find out why that is, which is when these mines exploded 20 years ago, and then the killer came back. One of the mine supervisors who was killed was Axel's father, who was killed in front of Axel, who has just never spoken about this to anyone again.
Lots of trauma.
Yeah, so he's just traumatized and deeply broken by it. TJ isn't that surprised and just hits him with a rock. So the tunnel completely collapses. Axel gets trapped, but TJ and Sarah get out.
They go back to go and get him.
Yeah.
And he escapes.
Yeah, he escapes. He had an arm that was stuck, and he just chops it off. Sings about how Sarah needs to be his Bloody Valentine, which is where the title comes from. And then he starts laughing before the movie ends. And that's the plot. It's a really short movie. And, I know it seems like we're rushing through the plot, but like it is very, it's a movie that respects your time.
Yeah.
So what is your quality assessment, David, of this movie?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't hate the film, but I wasn't in love with it either. I'm gonna give it a solid C plus.
All right.
I think for me that's fair.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair point of view. I think that this is a movie that's incredibly interesting to watch because, like I said, it combines like the cheapest slasher movies with a political commentary. A lot of slashers have political themes, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so that's not unique. But the way that it baits you into thinking you're going to watch a movie where people have sex in mines and get murdered, and then by the end of it, you're thinking about unionization. I think it did a good job of that. It doesn't have high production values, and that's part of the charm. But I think the reality is that when you watch a movie like this, you kind of know what you're getting into there.
Yeah. I don't know. The production was like 2.3 million. So
yeah, that is more money than you'd think.
Yeah.
I'd give it a solid B plus.
Yeah, I can tell you liked it.
Yeah, I love this movie. I do. And it's interesting too because my wife loves horror movies, hates slasher movies, but this is one of the few that she likes.
Wow, okay.
Because of the political theming.
Okay.
I think that if you're a fan of slasher movies, you should definitely watch it. If you're curious, you should definitely watch it. I don't think it's gonna blow your mind. Like it's not gonna blow your mind, but I think you're gonna have at least a good time, and you might like it more than you think you would.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some things about this film that I did love. Some of the characters I loved, and things to the sort. Some of the kills are great. But let's talk about some of the political stuff that you've been kind of brushing over. So what you got for us?
Yeah, sure. So when you're looking at the 1980s, you're looking at a time, across the world of significant deregulation. of course, in the United States, we had Reagan. In Europe, they had the UK rather, they had Thatcher, and we have Pierre Trudeau as the Prime Minister of Canada. Basically, as a part of the Liberal Party, which is the centrist party, so it's not as extreme as what we're getting in the US and in the UK. But nonetheless, we are starting to see we are starting to see more and more of a loss of that traditional union power. In the United States, at least, unions completely decimated in the 80s. And worker safety is put second pretty consistently throughout this movie. You're really left the idea that all of this could have been avoided. It could have been avoided if any of the pre-existing safety issues had been addressed in the 60s. If supervisors had not put themselves before others in the 60s. One thing to note is that the mine collapse happens in 1960. And then 1961 is the murders. They don't cancel Valentine's Day celebration in town when workers are hurt, but when management is hurt.
That's when it's a problem.
That's when it's a big issue. Who gives a shit about these Canadian miners who have been just dropped into this mine and left to rot? Who cares?
Yeah.
But if you kill a manager who owns more property, that's when it matters. When people in the town who aren't workers have their safety put at risk, that's when it matters. But workers in a mining town, I mean, those are just more bodies to put onto the kindling, right?
They're expendable. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that it also, one thing that really stuck out to me this time watching it was the way that the police as well kind of get into this idea of, we don't want to address this. We don't want to talk about how Harry Warden is back yet because we don't want to cause a panic.
Yeah.
And the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, well, they'd have to put out a bulletin. But then, in the last 2 years, we've been living in a in a very dangerous situation that, at least early on, as long as it could be, and I think still to a degree now, was underplayed in a lot of corners for the purpose of, economic growth and perceived economic prosperity. And of course, it's the public-facing workers who are put at risk for that, because the executives who are profiting and the shareholders who are profiting from that, they're not the ones who are talking to 500 customers a day at Taco Bell.
Well, not Taco Bell, but me.
Yeah,
I'm one of the workers. So
yeah, exactly. And I've been lucky enough to be able to work from home during the pandemic, but I mean, the way that people's safety is being dismissed. It's not just, I mean, it is a COVID thing, but it's not just a COVID thing. This is what, I mean, there's no other way to put it. This is what capitalism does.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that you mentioned, I'm like, now I see all this stuff. And I just kind of ignored it just to watch it as a slasher film.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, and it's a good and it's a serviceable slasher film for that too. What I love about the slasher genre is that it only works if slashers represent something. I'm sure we'll talk about Nightmare on Elm Street on here. I hope we do, because that's my favorite series of horror movies. Freddy Krueger represents the dark secrets that are buried to maintain the facade of suburbia. Harry Warden represents, the human kindling that needs to exist for capitalism to function. Jason represents how scary it would be if a man in a spooky hockey mask came up to you and killed you with a chainsaw. So, it's all there.
Yeah. Oh, well, we will definitely get into all of those. Or I hope we do. Yeah, for sure. And I noticed another. Well, I guess I'm not surprised about this, but there wasn't a single ethnic person in the movie, in that town.
Yes,
and I was like,
it is a very white movie.
Yeah,
which,
I was like, kind of, but I didn't realize
it's a small mining town in Nova Scotia in 1981.
Yeah, and I just didn't I didn't put it together, at the time. I was just watching and I'm like, and I don't know. But I was like, there's not even a black person here.
Yeah, and to be, number one, there wasn't, now I think we're living in a time where we want movies to be more representative of the general public. I think that's good.
Yeah.
In the 80s, they weren't doing that to I think the detriment of a lot of movies. At the same time with this movie, it's a small mining town in Nova Scotia. It, you know, it, I you'd probably, I mean, I don't know what the ethnic makeup of the town would be, what the racial makeup of the town would be.
It would have been,
whether,
yeah,
yeah, it
either
would have been at
0
least,
to
yeah,
less than 1% probably.
yeah. And of course, yeah. So, and maybe, if we have people who are listening who are Canadian and I'm incorrect about that, I'm sorry, definitely let me know. But, I at least I think that somewhat goes towards explaining like why this movie is so white in a way that leaves it believable. In a way that a lot of the movies that, I'm sure we'll end up talking about throughout this podcast won't be as easily explainable through that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I have anything else to really add. You've done a majority of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, this has been fun.
We should probably plug our other stuff.
Yeah, of course. So, for my main podcast is on Spotify, Apple, under Cali DTO. You can find me on Twitter. I'm trying to up my followers for Twitter on my other account. So I know you just followed me on my main one.
Mm-hmm.
But for my podcast, Twitter is under CaliDTO 408. And that's it for my, oh, actually, and my Instagram is Cali underscore DTO. That's CALI underscore DTO.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to go through my list real quick. I am Axel Greenberg on Twitter, AXLGREENBERG, all one word. Axel Greenberg on YouTube, same spelling. I talk about comic books. I talk about movies. I talk about all sorts of stuff. And if you've somehow managed to not carve your own ears off by listening to my voice for the last hour or so, I think you should follow me there because I'm actually pretty funny, I think. And I also have a podcast that is coming out wherever you get your podcasts. I do not have a release date yet, called Speech Bubbles, where me and my friend David, no relation to the David that's on this podcast, we'll be talking about all sorts of fun comic book related topics depending on the week. So look forward to that as well.
Okay. I'm looking forward to hear that one too. I am on YouTube as well, but they are only audio, basically audio playbacks. So it's just Cali DTO. Yeah, until then, we will see you guys next time. You guys have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.